There we go. Okay, so let's go up to all right, here's fine. So I really just want to talk about like the specials and subs. Like this Inkstorm, in theory, this is like an amazing special. I think after seeing it in the tournament, it's not as good as I was hoping it would be. I'm guessing this is gonna need some balance before it's gonna be really good. Because in its current state, it definitely seems pretty underwhelming. And it's like between this and Stingray for like currently the worst special in the game. But like as a concept, like the heavy painting over a wide area, slowly moving forward, is great. I think it just moves forward a little too fast and doesn't paint quite enough. Because I don't think it's taking into consideration that you need to paint. It needs to be able to outpaint the enemy team in order to be useful, I think. It's kind of like that. I mean, you can see it in the invitational. Like, there's anytime Japan was playing, I think at least one time during that set they would have had the Splat Shot Pro and used it. It's just that it like doesn't fully paint the area it goes through. It just kind of mostly paints it, and that's assuming that nobody from the other team is painting it. And it's also moving. It moves through the area too fast to really be something that's adding pressure. It's just kind of like it's almost like it should just be like something you shoot off to the side to paint an area that you wouldn't normally be able to. Like it's like essentially the same function as a sprinkler, but sprinklers honestly just does the same job better. Like sprinkler is probably as good as this weapon, like, but it's a sub, or as good as a special, but it's a sub. If not for that, like Splat Shot Pro would probably be my most excited weapon because the point sensor changes are great. If you don't know what they are, it's essentially the same thing, but it will stay in the position that you throw it at for it's about 3 to 4 seconds. I couldn't get an exact timing, but it felt like 3 to 4 seconds. So that means that you can throw it at a zone or at like a choke point, and for that next 3 to 4 seconds, you know for a fact if somebody's gone through there. If you run enough sub saver, I don't know how much ink it actually like consumes. So if it's the same or even a little less, it'll be great. But if it's actually more, it might be an overall nerf. Like if you can't throw out 2 of them without any sub saver, it's probably going to be bad. Whereas this Disruptor change, as in Toxic Mist, is unbelievable. It's completely reworked. It's not really the same thing at all, except in like the effect that it has. So instead of like you throw it at a spot and it's like a point sensor, whoever was there gets affected by it, and for the whole duration, it does like a point sensor sized cloud that if you're inside of it, you are slowed down and your ink is like taken away. Like it doesn't make you consume more ink; it actually takes ink away. So even if you're doing nothing, you're going to end up with like an empty tank by the time you leave it. So what it's really good at is throwing it in positions where you don't want people to stand, and throwing it in positions where if you like it'll slow down pressure. So like if you're backing up and you throw one at your feet, it will stop pretty much anybody who's chasing you. Like you'll like as long as they don't have like insanely long range, you should be able to get away. And then it's also like it's actually like a huge radius, and it lasts for like it was like somewhere between 8 and 10 seconds. I think it was like 7 or 8. And according to Hitzel, if you run enough sub saver, you can actually throw 3 of them before the first one expires, which is so much area that you can cover. And apparently it also costs like basically as much as a splash wall in Splat 1. So I think that's 60 or 70% of your tank. And it has a lot of white ink. So the idea is probably going to be you're going to want to get enough sub saver that you can throw 2 of them at once and throw them, and so that you consume the white ink like over the same time, and then like it just creates this huge choke point that they can't push through for like the next 8 seconds. And I think my prediction is that you're going to see one of these, at least one person with this on every single team. Minimum. Especially like as people get better with it. I guarantee you Hitzel's going to use it like every game. Doesn't matter. And then, alright, so what's the next thing? Dynamo. Dynamo confirmed has vertical flick. It has Ink Mines and Stingray, which the Ink Mines are probably going to be insanely good now. I think Dynamo, as an overall prediction, is going to be the same. I think at the start, it's actually going to be like way, way, way better. But as people get better with like the control style, like especially with like things like point sensors and disruptors being like more powerful, I think it's going to slowly dwindle down to be a little less prevalent than it currently is in Splat 1. So it's like, it's still going to be good, but it's not going to be, like, you're not going to see it on every single Splatstones game like you do in Japan meta right now. The only reason we don't see it in the West is because nobody plays it. Like, nobody actually likes playing it. Like, even the people that do play it in tournament don't enjoy playing it. I'm pretty sure. Most of them. I was really sad we didn't see a lot of this Splash-O-Matic, because I think this Splash-O is probably going to be insanely good as a support kit. It's got the Toxic Mist and it's got Inkjet, and it's still Splash-O-Matic, so it paints super, super well. Probably one of the best in the or like of the revealed weapons. So I think this one's gonna be like really, really prevalent as a support weapon. Like, I think my prediction is Hitzel's probably gonna main this thing. Do they have Ink Mine's reworked here? So it has a larger activation and blast radius, and you can place 2 at a time and they never expire. But the big thing is they give off the point sensor effect if they trigger it. Which I'm assuming doesn't happen if like they shoot at it and like paint over it so that it explodes at range. I think you actually have to go through the trigger radius for that, but it's still gonna be a high skill cap thing where you're gonna put it in positions that it's gonna force people to trigger it instead of paint over it. And it's gonna be really good for people that like to flank, and it's gonna be really good for chargers. Like, it's gonna be super protective and really good at giving you information if you're like way in on them. So Ink Mines, I think, is gonna be like between Ink Mines, Disruptor, or Poison Mist. I'm probably gonna say Disruptor forever because that's just how it's gonna work in my brain. And Point Sensor, those 3 are gonna be so good. Like, I think we're probably gonna see 2 of those on a team for a lot of comps. Maybe not every time or most comps, but I think there's gonna be a very control style that's gonna emerge, and it's gonna abuse like the potential of these zone-based sub weapons. So like, it also probably includes that autobomb thing, because while that's not as good at the control thing, it still kind of does the same thing, just a little worse. They changed the Splash Shot kit, Burst Bomb Splashdown. It was definitely really good in the Invitational. I think almost every game you were seeing Deadbeat run 2 of them because they paint really well, and it just is a generally good thing. And Splashdown was really easy to adapt to because it feels a lot like invincibility specials currently do, where it's just you kind of panic and hit the button. So it was really easy to just use. Rollers, whatever. We confirmed. Oh, so this is actually kind of nice to know. The with Splat Chargers, the non-scoped ones get charge keep, and the scoped ones get the extra range that they currently get. So it's actually, you actually have a reason to use the unscoped ones, and I think when people start abusing charge keep properly, it's gonna end up being, you're almost never gonna see a scope unless like there's certain like specific ranges on certain maps where it's like, oh, you know, the extra range I get out of the scope is worth the trade-off I get for not having charge keep. But I think even then, charge keep is probably going to be better, because the things that you can do with it, like, I don't know if any of you saw Tic Tac's little mini montage that he did, but that showed a lot of what is like potential for it. Like, not all of that is stuff that's actually going to be used, but it shows that it's increasing the skill cap of chargers immensely. And Splat Bomb Stingray is kind of, it's okay, but I think whatever alternate kit we get is more likely to be better, because I think Stingray is pretty bad even after the buffs. And then Dualies, Burst Bomb 10 missiles is a really good kit, but Dualies is going to be one of those things where it's going to take people a little while to get good at, and you're going to see a couple people that main it and be like beasts with it, and then like nobody else will play it. Slosher kit is amazing. The Slosher, I'm pretty sure they did some tweaking to the main weapon itself, because it seems like it's doing a lot more in the Invitational than it would have in Splat 1. So I think this might be pretty top tier. It's hard to say without actually playing it, but it looked really, really good in the Invitational. And the other thing is heavy splatling. So I wish I could find the clip, but there was like one Splat Zones game where Deadbeat was basically, it was power on the heavy splatling, and he would throw a sprinkler to top mid, and the other team, I don't remember which team they played when they did this, but the other team, it was like 3 of them were trying to paint zone, and the sprinkler was out painting them solo. Like, there was a little help from other teammates, but it was mostly like that sprinkler was just like doing it insane. Like, the new sprinkler is absolutely bonkers. If it stays the way it is, it's going to be so good. Beacons returning, whatever. What did I miss? I don't know if I went over the Stingray changes, but now you can stop shooting, and if you're not shooting, you can you lose the like slow aim, so you can aim faster, but you still have like a little charge up time before you can start shooting again. So it's like you're trading a lot of your like spraying duration in order to reposition, and from what I can tell, it's not really worth it. The other thing is when you're not shooting, you can also see people through walls, so you can kind of like get an idea where people are and then move to shoot at them. But I think overall it's still pretty bad. I think its main problem is it's such a thin hitbox that it's not really good at killing people, and especially because they're not, it like takes like 5 or 6 hit markers for it to actually kill, so it's not actually really like super fast kill time either. So like, because it doesn't kill really quickly and you can't really like follow people properly, like people can literally swim through it and swim straight through it around it to kill you, and it's just kind of not good. I don't really know how else to explain it. Like, it's good. It's one of those things where it's like it could be good in theory, but there's so much weak, like it's really weak right now. And then Auto Bomb is walking homing bomb. It's kind of like somewhere between a Seeker and a Ink Mine, maybe. It's like a Seeker Ink Mine combo, and it was actually like it creates a pretty good amount of pressure on people. Like, it follows you for a pretty good distance if you're not in range for it to explode. So I can see that being, you know, like it's one of those things where it's like it's not necessarily something you actively look for on a weapon, but if a weapon you like has it, it's not necessarily a bad thing. Whereas like, unlike like Ink Mines currently. So I don't know, it's got potential. I think overall the best weapons right now are probably heavy splatling, Slosher, and Dynamo. Really heavy painting weapons, and you know, fairly easy to use, and they were performing really, really well. I think long term, chargers are going to get better. I think Splash-O-Matic is going to be a surprise for a lot of people. Is really good because its support kit is just kind of unbelievably good. And then I can also see maybe another blaster kit being really good too. I think this blaster kit's good. It's just something about it just doesn't seem right. I can't really explain it. Like Splashdown, I think if just had a different special, maybe I would like it a little more. But yeah, new Sprinkler is insane. The toxicness is insane. Like you'll probably see both of those on a lot of teams. And then other than that, everything's pretty balanced so far as we can tell. I definitely think that team comps are pretty much going to be decided on sub weapons. Like you'll have people that'll main certain like kinds of weapons, but like what they choose is going to be purely decided on the sub weapons. Like I think it's going to end up being you want a certain amount of control and a certain amount of painting ability. And I think between if you have like a Toxic Mist and a Sprinkler on your team, it's going to round a lot of corners that you, or it's going to fill a lot of gaps in your team comp that you wouldn't be able to fill otherwise. So I think Sprinkler Toxic Mist is going to be really common. As far as special goes, we know Bomb Rush exists. We don't know like what's different about it. It's hard to talk about without knowing details. Inkjet's kind of like one of those things. It's okay, but I think people got to get good at it before it's going to be like really potent. Inkstorm's really weak. Splashdown's okay. Stingray's really weak, and Ten of Missiles is probably the best right now. Just because of ease of use and amount of information it gives you. And then gear abilities. So the changes they made are just about perfect. Like they got rid of damage and defense as we knew them. We are pretty sure that's true because a treehouse person told one of Deadbeats, I think. And in replace, we still got sub defense. So you can have greater defense to sub weapons, but it doesn't actually affect primary weapons. So primary weapon balance is going to be static. Like, so that's going to be way better. And then we know stealth jump's not coming back. And we know quick respawn's completely reworked. So you now have to die 2 times in a row without getting a kill for quick respawn to take effect. I think it's actually a little stronger like when it does take effect, but it's like you have to be dying and not getting kills for it to do anything. So it's going to be one of those things where it's like a team will run it if they know the other team's better than them, or somebody will run it if they're just playing a pure like total support role. Like a Dynamo I could see being a weapon that still runs it. But other than that, it's probably not going to be used that much. Sub power up behaves differently depending on the sub. The things we do know is on Toxic Mist, it's a bomb range thing. Essentially behaves like bomb range. On burst bombs, it behaves like bomb range. And I think on there's something else where it increases its radius. And other than that, I don't really remember. And then special power up is also one of those things that changes. It's what it does. It's like I think this is replacing special duration entirely. So it's making your specials more potent. So I think on Tenta missiles, it increases that circle in the middle of the screen where you can actually see people, like where it reveals people. And then, what was the other thing it said? I don't know. I don't remember the other one. But then everything else is pretty much the same. Ink resistance is now stackable, and I think it's the same thing for Cold-Blooded. So it's more of a linear, like you have to invest in it to actually get most of the benefit. And from what I could tell, Tim was running the ink resistance a lot, and I think it's probably going to be a really common ability. Like Sonic builds with half swim speed, half ink resistance is going to be something you'll see. But yeah. Other than that, it's pretty predictable. Overall, good changes. And then I actually don't like this, where it's showing you. Right, so the things we know is it'll show you on screen when it happens when you get an assist. But post game, it shows how many times you activated your special. Not how many times you had an effective special or how many times you got kills with your special, but how many times you just popped it. Like, it feels like a stat that would just be like a byline in like, you know, a bigger stat sheet. It's not something I would want to see after every single game. Although it was interesting to know, I think Pingit during one game got like 9 of missiles off. Like, that was crazy. Other than that, we got the new map. This map is probably my favorite that I've seen so far. It's got a lot of interesting angles and power positions, and I kind of like it. New Marais is actually really nice too, because all the changes they did to it, like they don't necessarily solve the problems, but they make the problems a lot less of a big deal. So I really like it. And then yeah, so that's really all the new information. But overall, I think Splatoon 2 is going to definitely play more. You need to have like more preemptive thought in everything you do rather than just like reaction, like quick respawn, holding forward, and like waiting till you get like a triple kill and then just pushing until you win. It's definitely going to be more control based, and we're going to see a lot of long. I think it's weird because like the maps kind of benefit short range weapons, but I think long range is going to be better in like the interactions between like the sub and the weapons. So I think we're going to see a lot of long range and then maybe like one really short range trying to capitalize on punching people. I don't think E-Leader is going to get a base damage increase. I think Rapid will. I think it needs it, otherwise it's going to be trash tier. Yeah, Rapid, if it doesn't get some sort of buff, it's going to be really bad, because it without damage is pretty bad. It needs to be able to consistently 3-shot people. Either that or blasters as a whole need to be nerfed, except for Rapid, and leave Rapid where it's at, and then it might be okay. But it's hard to say. Anyway, oh, there's also changes to the modes, so I have to do this off memory because I don't think that's in here. So what we know is tower control now has a checkpoint system. Maybe it's in here somewhere. No. So tower control has a checkpoint system, and like the tower moves faster in between checkpoints, but when it hits a checkpoint, it stays there for a certain amount of seconds. It depends on the checkpoint. Like Marais Towers, the first checkpoint is 10 real life seconds or 20 points. And once you get through the checkpoint once, you don't have to hit it again. So now pushes are going to be more like, all right, we're going to go for the, like, we got enough that we can get the first checkpoint pretty easily, so let's go for it. But if like you are making a push and you already have the first checkpoint, you don't really have full control, you don't need to really like go for it and hope that you can get to the second checkpoint. You can kind of be more methodical about how you do something and go for the safer push. What the heck is going on here? Okay. And then the Rainmaker changes is the Rainmaker isn't like a Inkzuka shot anymore. It's more like it's kind of like a blaster, but it has like it shoots in an arc, and then it has a delay when it lands before it explodes. So it's not as good at solo like killing people. Like it's good at like pushing with a team and like clearing people out of certain areas so that you can push forward, but it's not really good at painting for itself. So it's emphasizing teamwork and reducing the amount of ability that you have to like solo carry with a Rainmaker and just sneak it through. So it's like so good for it. And then the other change that I don't think they actually mentioned in the post was if it's sitting there, if it's not at the default position and it's sitting there for a while popped, it'll reset. So I think it was something like 20 seconds. If it sits there for like 20 seconds, it just resets back to center, which is awesome. Like, that's so good. It means you can't camp it as well, and it means that pushes that aren't effective, but like non-effective pushes that are just kind of like chaos aren't going to be as good at like getting good leads. Like so like it won't be as good to like just rush the Rainmaker forward to like the 60-point marker and then hope that somebody else can pick it up and go for a little further if you cause enough chaos, which is kind of how Rainmaker's played right now. It's going to be, you really need to make sure you're consistently grabbing it and pushing it forward. You can't just like get it in a forward position and then start playing around it there. So I think it's actually really good. Good changes for Rainmaker. The Splat Zones change is whatever. It's just a readability change. It doesn't. There's no actual practical change, so I'm not even gonna really talk about it. But yeah, Tower Control and Rainmaker are probably better than Splat Zones now, in my opinion, as like game design, from a game design and competitive point of view. I think Splat Zones needs a rework to its penalty system for it to be as good. Is there anything else I really need to talk about? Octobrush looked really bad. I think they nerfed it. It doesn't swing as fast. It seems like it doesn't swing as fast, and without damage up, it's kind of like not that great. So yeah, kind of a bummer for Octobrush players. And I don't think there's really anything else to talk about, so I am gonna